Hey viewers, my name is Cara. I'm your host for Tuesdays on the Pagan Perspective. Before I go on to the topic, I just wanted to remind everyone that the Pagan Perspective does have a Facebook page and a blog, and on the blog we list all of the topics that we've ever covered since we started in August of 2009. There's also a frequently asked questions page there, and other things that you may want to check out if you're new to the collab, or even if you're not. There should be links in the description of all of our videos to the blog, but when people upload directly from a mobile device, that doesn't show up, but I have it as an automatic thing on there. So if you haven't seen that, please check the description of my videos. It's always on there, and it should be on some of the others as well, or on the main channel page. So that being said, without any further ado, roll the intro. And I just want to take a moment to thank Austin, one of our original members, again for making that intro for us, and we've been using it ever since he made it in 2009. So thank you, Austin. This week we are answering a lot of questions from Tristan about where we draw our lines as far as what sorts of things are acceptable in paganism as far as we consider it. I also realized that I look exactly the same as I did in the last video because I'm wearing the same hoodie and my hair is up the same way, but I promise I have changed my clothes since then. So the many questions, as usual, will be in the description. And I'm speaking a little quietly because everyone is asleep and this house echoes. So I hope that's okay for you. The first question, there are many different beliefs and practices in the pagan umbrella, and where would we draw the line? And it was a discussion from another website, and many points were brought up, such as, I guess, that people would draw the line at sacrifice, bloodletting, suicide, whether it be group suicide or homicide, things that go against physics, and what we call ourselves, and dictation of people's beliefs. And then the second question is whether we think we have a right to dictate other people's beliefs, and what common ground do we think pagans have, and how would that change if we thought that it was okay to tell people what to believe. The third question is what would we decide is wrong for a person to believe in a first world society, which is just an extremely big question. And the fourth question is, do we believe what we call ourselves should be based off of initiation or historical fact? So these videos are going to be kind of long this week. I know Rich said that his is 12 minutes long. So let's just start right at the beginning. Where would we draw the line? I'm not sure if they're asking where we would draw the line on each of these subjects, or whether those were just examples of where other people said they would draw the line, such as someone saying, well, I would draw the line at bloodletting. That's where I draw my line. Or if these were all separate questions, such as where would you draw the line concerning sacrifice? Where would you draw the line concerning what we call ourselves, etc. I'm going to answer it in the latter way and try to talk about all of them. So the first one is sacrifice, human and animal. That is not part of my path. So I guess I draw the line before that comes up because I don't do that. I do believe in the use of the word sacrifice as something that we give up that has a lot of value or a lot of meaning. Sorry, there's a fuzz. So for example, I do know that historically people did sacrifices in the sense of killing something and sacrificing it. Animal sacrifice historically made sense to me because it was the thing that was worth the most to you was your livestock, for example, and so you would slaughter your best lamb or a sheep and offer that up because it's what meant the most to you. And in this day and age, I don't think it's the same for us. Livestock or other animals or things like that are not the most valued thing that we can sacrifice. So to me, the word sacrifice still has a meaning in that it's something that we give of ourselves, and that might just be our time and our energy, our financial substance. We might offer money, or there might be certain things that are actual parts of myself that I offer. But as far as what people think of as sacrifice, as in killing an animal or killing a person, no, absolutely not. That is not part of my practice. But the idea of sacrifice and giving up something that means a lot, that does have a place in my practice. Secondly, bloodletting. I also don't use bloodletting in my practice, but I don't really necessarily have a problem with other people doing it in certain ways, such as if I wanted to do a spell that involved pricking my finger and using my own blood, or menstrual blood. I know people use menstrual blood for things. That doesn't bother me at all. Or certain TV shows that I watch where they'll, cut their hand with a blade and let that blood be part of a pact that they're making or a spell that they're doing or anything like that. That doesn't bother me. Harming someone else without their permission and being really violent and hurtful and things like that, no, I'm not okay with that. But small uses of blood for things like that I'm okay with. So that just really depends on what it is for me. I know there are a lot of people who are just totally have an aversion to blood in general, and so they won't do it, and that's fine. And I don't usually do it, but I think if I at any time wanted to use my own blood for something, I would do that. Group suicide or homicide, no, just no. I'm gonna stay away from that. I feel like there's no exception to that for me. That's not ever something that I would include in my practice, and I don't think it should be included, because one of the later questions is what do we think is wrong, and I think that is wrong. Next topic, things that go against physics. I'm not really sure what the question's asking, because I don't believe that we can do anything with magic that is impossible by nature. I think that everything that we do is within nature, and it is a natural thing. It is not supernatural. It is not outside of nature. We can't do anything that isn't already possible by nature, is basically how I think of it. So as far as drawing the line at things that go against physics, I don't believe we can do anything that is against physics, so I wouldn't be dealing with that. But if it's asking about, for example, other people who do things as part of their practice or strive toward attaining things that are against physics as part of their practice, I say go ahead and try, but I personally don't believe that we can. And there might be more to that I just have to stop and think about, okay, what is the entire breadth of what physics covers, and what are all these other things that people are doing that are supposedly against physics? I guess I would have to know more about the specifics of those. But on a very general level of just seeing that phrase, things that go against physics, that's what I think of. What do we call ourselves? Example, Druid versus Neo-Druid, or Wicca without initiation, etc. Obviously, you guys know I refer to myself as a Wiccan, even though I am a non-initiate. I am not initiated into a traditional group, and that's because I'm not a traditional Wiccan. I refer to myself as a solitary eclectic Wiccan, and I think that there is a difference between a solitary eclectic Wiccan or just an eclectic Wiccan. I think there's a difference between an eclectic Wiccan and a traditional Wiccan. And if I were attempting to be traditional, I would seek initiation, and I would not claim to be a such and such Wiccan, such as a Gardnerian Wiccan or an Alexandrian Wiccan or whatever it is, without being initiated into it, because that is something that requires initiation to join. But my own personal path required no other initiation than my choosing to join the path and my gods accepting me on it. And there have been many times where I've questioned that, and I've spoken to my deities about it and expressed my worries about other people dictating what I call myself and things like that. And I've spoken to other people who both are initiated into traditions and those who are not, and I've read different opinions by different authors. And recently I read in a book by Gide Parma, who is a friend of Pagan Perspective in a way. He's a friend of Brendan's. Recently read a book of his where a bunch of people that he works with talked about initiation and what they think of it, and none of them really talked about it as being a specific ritual ceremony whereby another human being initiates you into your path. It's very much an experience of you changing something about yourself and initiating a new journey in your life. And that's what I've done. So obviously I think that there are different ways of qualifying what we call ourselves and why, and I think that's the important thing. As long as you know why you call yourself that, so that if someone approaches you and said, why do you call yourself this, you can explain it to them. I think that's the important thing. I don't think we should be calling ourselves things that we can't explain or that we have absolutely no reason for. We just decided to call ourselves this one day. I just think that's unwise in general. But as far as things like Druid versus Neo-Druid, or recently I heard someone refer to me as a Neo-Wiccan, and I thought, well, what's Neo-Wicca? Because Wicca is already Neo-Pagan, so why do we have to say that it's new? Like, it's getting a little too crazy for me. But yeah, basically I think that things are changing enough and people are eclectic enough now that what we call ourselves is really varied, and we should know the origins of things and what other people basically consider them to be, and we should be able to explain why we choose particular things and what we think of when we say these things. I think that's important. And I think if you can't do that, or if you don't do any research into what the words actually originally meant or anything like that, and you just can't have an informed conversation about it, I just think that that is an unwise position to put yourself in. And then the last one was dictation of people's beliefs, which is the second question, so I'll just go into that. Do we have a right to dictate other people's beliefs, even based upon their conditioning, area of life, country, and morals? I'm not really sure what based upon conditioning, etc. was really supposed to mean, because I I don't really think we have a right to dictate other people's beliefs. Obviously, I think I have a right to say, as I just said, that you should know how to talk about your beliefs and you should be able to explain why you've chosen blah blah blah, but at the same time, I don't think I have a right, for example, to tell someone that you can't be this because to be this, you believe blah, blah, blah. One example I can think of a time where I've really felt like that is just where people have told me that they identify by a certain label and then they've told me their individual beliefs, and everything that I know from my research, those beliefs don't match that label at all. So I think they could have chosen a better label for themselves. That kind of thing. I think those kinds of things, but I don't tell that person, you cannot call yourself this. I may just express my opinion that I'm really not sure how you came to that conclusion. Why have you chosen this? If you want to call yourself that, that's fine. But no, bottom line, it's really not up to me to tell other people what they are or who they are. And the next part of this is all pagans have common ground, and to you, what is that common ground and how would it change if we decided it was okay to tell people what to believe? Because you worded it like that, Tristan, I can say that part of what is common ground to pagans is that our beliefs are varied and very individual. So if we suddenly decided that it was okay to tell other people what to believe, we would lose that. We would lose that kind of freedom of our own personal search for religious and spiritual truth and freedom. We would lose that. And I think that's one of the things that really attracts people to pagan paths, is just that it's a different kind of connection, and it's a very personal connection, and the connection that I make to a certain deity form could be completely different than what the next person connects with to that exact same deity form or concept. So I think that's one thing that all of us kind of have in common, is that we have this desire for that type of individual connection and the possibility for variation. Other things that I think are pretty common may actually vary between, because I like to think that a lot of pagans have an earth-based path, but then not all of us do. And I like to think, well, lots of pagans are polytheists and have some kind of polytheistic view, which of course varies on its own spectrum, but then not everyone that considers themselves a pagan considers themselves a polytheist. So the other things that I kind of think of as common ground are really do vary, so I can't really speak too much on that. So that one's very difficult. Sierra, why are you whining? Sierra's being very loud. If you can hear her meowing in the background, I'm not sure what her complaint is. What is going on? So please forgive her interruptions. Third question, what would you decide is wrong for a person to believe in a first world society? This question is so difficult, and honestly, I'm going to say that I'm going to cut this kind of short because it would take me far too long to discuss all of the things that I think should be brought up in a conversation like that. It's one of those things where, like, when it comes up individually, you can think about it and you can think, I think this is wrong or I think this is right. And there are some things that frequently get brought up in conversations about paganism that I do think are wrong morally or ethically. But when you open it up to what would you decide is wrong for a person to believe in a first world society in general, that just seems so large, and I feel like I haven't thought about all of the different things that could fall into that category. But no, I'm not going to say that I don't believe that anything is wrong to believe, because while I do think that everyone's personal beliefs are correct for them or are right for them, whereas they may not be right for me, there are certain things that I think are just wrong in general that I wish no one would believe was okay, because they are actually harmful to everyone. And I've talked about this on my personal channel when I did my video about the 4 Signs of a Dynamic Catholic. It was a book review, and I talked about relativism and how that author talks about relativism. I talked about how I consider myself a relativist in the sense that my beliefs are right for me, your beliefs are right for you, your beliefs are right for you. But when I say that, I'm referring to things that really don't affect other people, such as what I believe about what happens after death doesn't affect your life or my life. It doesn't actually hurt anyone if we disagree on that. Or if I worship these gods and you worship these gods and you worship this god, singular, that doesn't really hurt anybody until it gets into the kinds of things where, well, my God says that if you don't believe this, you deserve to be murdered or you deserve to be killed, whatever. And then over here you've got people who say, if you don't agree with me, then I think I have a right to refuse to hire you or refuse to serve you in my establishment, and things like that. That actually gets into harm and discrimination, and those things I think are wrong. I don't think it's right to discriminate against other people based on their beliefs. I don't think it's okay for someone to believe that it's all right to abuse someone, murder someone, things like that. And there are other things that I wish no one would believe, such as I wish that no one would believe that being gay was evil or a sin. But really, when you get right down to it, it doesn't really matter if you simply believe that being gay is wrong or a sin. It does, however, matter if you then take that belief and use it to harm those people or inhibit their lives or create laws that change their lives for the worse and prevent them from having rights and things like that. So that's just, it's a really big question, but that's the kind of thing that I think is really wrong, is things that I don't think are okay for anyone, just as a person. And when you take religion out of the equation, you take spirituality out of all of that, just get rid of it. Things that I think are wrong as human beings. I think it's wrong to kill each other. I think it's wrong to etc. Okay, so that's just a really big topic. I'm going to cut it short there. You get where I'm coming from. And then fourth, do you believe what you call yourself should be based off of initiation or historical fact? Again, not sure what you mean about historical fact. It continues, if you'd like to consider historical fact in your answers, like how quite a few ancient pagan religions used to believe it was okay to sacrifice blood or anything else, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it has to do with that. What do you call yourself should be based off of initiation or historical fact? Well, I'm pretty sure nothing that exists right now that I do in my path, I don't know for sure that there's historical evidence of people doing it. And someone brought that up recently too, what is our historical evidence for this? And I don't attempt to make my path like an ancient path. My path is modern, it's eclectic, it's drawn from things that I believe existed before Christianity in various forms and have been changed over the years, and the roots of what I do, I believe, are ancient. But as for exactly what I do, I'm willing to say that they're probably not, because our lives are different, the world is different, and I think that we should change with those times, learn from the past, live for the future kind of thing. I like to know what went on before and what people did before me, definitely, and I like to learn from that and use pieces of that. Back to the thing about sacrifice, for example, I understand why that was okay then. I don't think that just because they did it then, that means we should do it now. That's the kind of thing I'm getting at there. And then what we call ourselves being based off of initiation, I've already explained that. I stand by what I call myself, and you guys know that I often think about whether there's something better for me to use to say, but I keep coming back to the same label that I've always used for various reasons. And until I learn something entirely new, or until my views change enough that I no longer feel like that makes any sense whatsoever, those are the labels that I'm going to use, and that's why. And honestly, as the years go by, more and more things make me think that I am personally justified in what I have chosen for myself, instead of learning things that make me think, oh wow, I really need to change that. The only things that really make me think I need to change are other people's negativity and statements about what I can't do. But I think changing based on other people's negative opinions is never a good idea. I feel like a broken record if I say anything else about it, because I've discussed it so many other times on my channel or on here, and it's a subject that'll always come up for me, so I know you guys have heard it from me a lot. Other people on the collab that you'll hear from the rest of the week, we have all different sorts of paths, and so they may not have the same kind of negativity coming at them because they don't all follow paths which are associated with a certain tradition that you have to be initiated into. So that may never come up for any of them. I'm trying to think, Dancing Rabbit will maybe have something to say about that. But I don't know if anybody else's paths really have that sort of thing where someone can be like, well, you can't call yourself this because you haven't reached this ability yet. But anyway, my camera's probably dying and I want to go and take my shower and get ready for bed while this is saving and starting to upload for you. I don't know if I've mentioned on this channel yet that I got a day job. I haven't yet told YouTube what it is, but I have to work tomorrow. So I'm going to go get ready for bed and let this upload, and so hopefully this will be up on Tuesday at a good time for you. That was a lot of questions, a lot of really good, difficult questions. Tristan, thank you. Any one of those questions could have been a video in itself. Feel free to have a respectful, polite discussion in the comments on any one of these topics. Please just remain respectful is all we ask. Disagreeing is absolutely allowed, but we ask that you disagree politely and with respect to your fellow human beings and your fellows on this journey, this path. As we like to say in the Unitarian Universalist Church, our pledge is not to think alike, but to walk together. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in 2 weeks because the subs are up next week. And until then, don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye.